people come up to me and say, Charlie, why do you like punching Muslim kids in it? What? Why do you kick Muslim children in it? I've been punched in the face many times, which is why I take bodyguards out now.
Why must we confront the Islamists?
I get sent death threats, primarily by Muslims, every day. Maybe Islam is a religion of peace. Bullshit. No one is scared of being called Islamophobic anymore. Christianity will fly you to the moon. Islam will fly you into buildings, and that's the difference. A group of males was planning to kill me on Saturday. Burqa, bin bag, ninja outfit, don't like it. I don't need to explain to people why I don't like it. If someone insults your mother, punch them in the face. Even the Pope said that. This country has gone woke, telling white people that they're shit. Burnley, Bolton, Blackburn, and Bradford, the kind of 4 Bs of the apocalypse. Big shipments of AK-47s, grenade launchers. This is going to be used to kill Europeans. We are at the precipice. Maybe it's too late to save this country politically. Fuck these people. You don't need to explain to them why you want to save your own country. Muslims love the word revert. We need to revert to rule Britannia, to the glory of Britain. I hope we don't get killed for this, Liam.
That was outrageous.
Ranting against Islamists and scumbags is very thirsty work. You know?
I want to say a quick thank you to our sponsors, Gold Seal. I use their products every single day, and now I finally get to work with them. I use their products for anti-inflammatory, reduced anxiety, better sleep, and mental clarity. I'm going to put a link to their website in the description, along with a 10% discount code for you to take advantage of. Go and have a look at their website, see if there's anything in there for you. I hope you enjoy this week's episode, and good health. Charlie.
Liam.
Thank you for coming on.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for giving me the exclusive, because I know that you get approached all the time, and this is your first ever full-length podcast interview, so I appreciate you trusting me with what we're going to discuss.
Yeah.
So recently you've had a bona fide threat to end your existence, an Osman warning issued to you by the police, which we're gonna cover. But first, let's go back and find out a little bit more about Charlie Veitch.
Yeah.
So I looked at your Wikipedia, and it said you're a conspiracy theorist. What did I mean by that?
Yeah. Around 2006, I watched my first Alex Jones movie. It was either Terror Storm or some InfoWars thing. Oh, 9/11 was an inside job. And like a lot of young men without status or power, I was in my mid-20s, you know, you're like, oh, why am I not at the top of the social hierarchy? Why am I not the big kahuna at the top of the food chain? Oh, yeah, it's these rich old men are holding me back. That's it. It's not me not working hard enough. It's not the fact that I'm young and you can't jump the ladder. It's definitely the rich people holding me back. So maybe I have a slightly paranoid conspiratorial mind anyway, but my adventures in conspiracy theory took me to New York, got me in a BBC documentary. I made a lot of friends, started a YouTube channel to fight the New World Order, and then, which is part of a conspiracy itself, on the New York trip with the BBC, after meeting the architects and engineers and met the FBI, met the CIA, got taken into this smoky room by these 2 Mossad guys. No, only joking. Because I changed my mind, I said, no, hold on. I think it was the Muslims. I think the Islamists hate the West that much that they just literally did it, the simplest. And because I changed my mind on it, everyone's like, oh, he's been brainwashed by the FBI now. Look. But yeah, I've got no regrets about the conspiracy life. I think looking back, I was wrong, but I was very confident in being wrong, and it led me to many different opportunities.
Well, I tell you what, that's another strength that most people are lacking now. And I always say this. I always say I like to keep a little bit of room in my mind for doubt.
Yeah.
Because I don't know everything. And I never will. I'm always learning constantly. And what if I have got it wrong on repeat?
Yeah.
I mean, you do something on repeat enough times, it becomes embedded in you.
Yeah.
Including the information and what you spout and regurgitate. So I'm with you on that. I always like to leave about 10%, just in case I've got something wrong.
Yeah.
And I've got no problem going, I got that wrong, just like you did. And you don't get many people doing that no more.
No,
you certainly
don't.
won't get a politician apologising.
No, and I know what you mean. Like, if you say something often enough, you start to believe your own bullshit. Like, if I were to say to you, Islam is a religion of peace, but if I say it 100 times softly, you might go, oh, maybe Islam is a religion of peace. But yeah, bullshit.
Yeah. So your background, I know you studied philosophy.
Yeah.
And you was in the Territorial Army.
Yeah.
So give us a little bit about, before we get right into your work, give us a bit in your background.
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing I want to kind of clarify is the Wikipedia article was based on the London Evening Standard article they did on me, where I was called the son of a wealthy banker. My dad's working class. My mum's Brazilian. My dad became an oil tanker captain and then an oil tanker pilot, harbor pilot, which is valet parking for oil tankers. Now, of course, as a working class Scotsman who got a very kind of specialist qualification in shipping, it paid very well. So wherever there were rich Arabs, we would go, and my dad would earn a tax-free income from those very rich Arabs. So the irony is, I'm probably going to denounce Islamism quite heavily on this show. Islamism, which is primarily funded by rich Arabs, but I had my boarding school paid for me by rich Arabs as well. So one of the reasons my dad got the job in Saudi Arabia was so that he could earn the big bucks and send me and my brother to boarding school. But because of that, the Chinese whispers, suddenly I became son of a billionaire. My dad's some oil magnate. He's like Rockefeller, Vietch.
Privileged Charlie.
Privileged child. But the philosophy side, Liam, was just, I was like 16. Don't know what to do. Don't want to be a scientist. Don't want to be a vet. Don't want to be a doctor. Don't want to be an engineer. What do I like? I like talking. I like ideas. I like bullshitting. No, sorry. I like talking. That's why I started the YouTube channel. No, so philosophy was a good basis to kind of learn how to argue, learn to listen to people. Like, I get challenged a lot in the street, and people come up to me and say, "Charlie, can I ask you a couple of questions?" In it, bruv, in it, UK, in it. And then they open with a loaded question. And then I try and teach them, no, if you want to have a good debate, you need to ask an open question. Charlie, why'd you like punching Muslim kids in it? And it's like, what? I like what? And then, so you try and teach them, no, you need to ask, Charlie, why do you sometimes kick people would be a better question. But they're like, why do you kick Muslim children in it? And it's
more of an accusation than a question.
Absolutely. They're not there to interview me. They're there to like throw shit at me and hope that some of it sticks.
Yeah, and what about the TAs? Did you once upon a time want to fight for your country?
I still do want to fight for this country, probably in a different way. But if push came to shove, of course, you know, there's a great saying that at some point we're going to have to save Great Britain. Either us, our children, or our grandchildren. And it's better that it's us rather than making our children or our grandchildren go for it. So after 9/11, before I became a conspiracy theorist, I was a mainstream nice boy in Edinburgh. So I was 21 when I watched the towers come down, watched it live in a cafe in Thailand. We were in Koh Samui, and a little Thai guy comes onto the beach. Come, your country, attack, attack, attack. We're like, what? There's a bunch of Israeli tourists. Israelis love Thailand. I went to see it. So 9/11 really affected me. I was the same age as you. And I was like, what can I do? I know, I'll join the armed forces. But I didn't want to like be a full-time soldier. I still wanted to earn money and work. So I joined the TA, and I was in Royal Logistics Corps doing officer training in Edinburgh for 2 years. But I quit just before Sandhurst for the officer training. The TA, you still do the same stuff as the regular army, because I became a conspiracy theorist. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to fight for the very people that did this attack. I know now it's wrong, but, you know.
Well, it's good that you found courage instead of fear when you saw that atrocity take place, because, I mean, it put the fear of God into most people. It shows testicular fortitude that you thought, you know what, I'm gonna resist this. So, yeah, again, I tip my hat to you.
Yeah, and funnily enough, bringing back memories now, I remember 2005, I was at can't remember the name of the army base, but funnily enough, there was a young guy, Muslim, who was doing the officer training with us. But when it came, and everyone remembers this, all the other English and Scottish guys there, when it came to the gun range where you get the SA-80, you learn the magazine, disassembling it. But when it came to do the shooting, there was like a couple of the weapons NCOs were like watching us. But for the Muslim guy, there was like 3 guys stood over him at any moment. And we all noticed that. And I think just after 9/11, everyone was worried, as we are now, because it's happened so many times, that he was just going to get a 30-round magazine and just bang, 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 just start doing a Mumbai-style massacre, start killing people. And we all had that in the back of our minds. Of course, it never transpired. It never happened. But it's a massive topic. Like, how can you be loyal to Great Britain, to the king, to Britishness, if you're also loyal to a 1400-year-old cult of Mohammedanism?
Did it used to
Islam?
Did it used to be called that?
Yeah, Mohammedans. Up until I'd say the 70s, British people would call Islam Mohammedanism. And I think it's very accurate because it's a personality cult. The reason why Muslims all call their kids Muhammad, they all have the same beard without the upper lip, and they try and copy him, is because they're in a very long-term personality cult. Whereas, and the problem is that with Christianity, Jesus is God, so you'll never be God. So you'll never be Jesus. But Muslims believe that they can be exactly like Muhammad because he was a human being. And that causes all sorts of problems when the fundamentals of your religion aren't based in the spirit world. They're based in a war general who did go a bit mad and massacre villages full of Jews left, right, and center. And there is a story, I've not been able to verify it, but it's not outside the realm of possibility, that I think it's in one of the hadiths that Muhammad went to conquer the last Jewish tribe of warriors that were like, no, fuck you, we like Moses and you're not the prophet. So he went and executed all the men in the village, and then after he executed the chief, he made the daughter watch the execution, and then he took her into the tent and had his carnal ways with her as a thrill. And now that's, but again, I can't verify that, so this is just Charlie doing anti-Islamism propaganda on the 𝐬𝐿M show.
You've said in the middle of the street that we must confront the Islamists. You've
Yes.
put that on record. It's a brave thing to say, particularly in this day and age.
Yeah.
Why must we confront the Islamists?
Because
And how do we?
They are in a very well-organized, very well-oiled machine. It's a worldly 3D physical realm domination cult that is different to, say, Buddhism or Christianity, which is based in heaven, in the other world, in things that are not physical. But we need to confront the Islamists. And first of all, I want to just clarify what I mean by Islamist rather than Muslim or Islam. So I see Islam is an ideology. I would say it's almost a religion. And I'm sorry if I've offended anyone. If the government's watching this and I've committed hate crimes, come for me. We're at the point now, I think, if I get arrested for criticizing the most dominant invading force that Europe has seen since the gates of Vienna or since the Reconquista of Spain, then, yeah, I don't care. Like, can you really get in trouble for trying to save your own country by speaking the truth? So Islam is a almost religion. It's a kind of domination cult. Muslims are people who are indoctrinated into that cult. But there's many Muslims who they're like kind of people that maybe go to church once a year, Christmas service, but they're like, yeah, I believe in Islam and Muhammad, but whatever. I'm just going to go and make money and be a good person. Those are Muslims. They're not a problem. But Islamists are people who see Islam as the perfect final political solution for the planet. Obviously, Muslims believe that the Quran is the final revelation of God. Nothing else can come after it. They're so arrogant to the point that they call people who convert to Islam in the West, they call them reverts. They're like, oh, Dave, Paul, Matthew, John, we'll keep it biblical. John, you guys were born Muslims, but you were brainwashed into being Christians, but now you're reverting back to Islam. That's very arrogant. And on the flip side, if you want to leave Islam, the penalty is death. Now, obviously, you don't see that practice very often. Obviously, in villages in Pakistan, they stone each other to death over it. But, I think Salman Rushdie, he was an Indian Muslim, but he came from a posh family, realized this is problematic, this book. He wrote the Satanic Verses, which I read. It's not as bad against Islam as the Muslims, you got that fatwa against them, the Ayatollah in Iran, you have to kill him. So he didn't insult it that badly. But anyway, to come back to the Islamists, we need to challenge them because they are empowered. They've got momentum behind them. They think that they're winning after 20 years of anti-Western, anti-straight white man propaganda by every angle. For a long time, we thought that the anti-straight white man propaganda was to make other minorities feel better, and it's not all domination. But you're like, wait a minute, this was all just a big ploy to make white people hate themselves and to have less children. And the Islamists are, on top of that, promoting Islam very, very heavily. And I said to you just outside in the waiting room before here, I think Muslims are on the back foot a bit right now, because after Southport, I know Southport wasn't committed by a Muslim, so they say, but I do think that 𝐼𝐶𝐸 Cabana was inspired by terrorism and Islamism, I think, before he did that, because the modus operandi, going to innocent small Christian people and doing a mass stabbing attack, if you ask anyone on the street, what would you associate a car ramming attack with, or a mass stabbing attack with? What religion? They're like, oh, Islam, clearly. So he might not have been a Muslim, but I would say it was very much inspired by it. But they're on the back foot now, Muslims, because since Southport, no one is scared of being called racist anymore. No one is scared of being called Islamophobic anymore, because we're now at the brink. We are at the precipice. We have maybe we've passed the precipice, Liam. Maybe it's too late to save this country politically. And now we realize that we're one spark away. Unfortunately, the Islamists can't help themselves. We're one beheading away from this country going into all-out sectarian civil war. And what I think will happen is some young British soldier like Lee Rigby, or even worse, a little girl will get kidnapped off the street, and the Islamists will put the ISIS banner behind her. They'll get the balaclavas on. She'll be screaming for her mummy. And on Facebook Live or something, they're going to behead a little Christian child on video, blood spilling everywhere as she screams for her mummy. And they're going to, without any self-awareness, they're going to say, you fucking British, innit? This is how they're suffering in Gaza. This is how the Muslims are suffering in XYZ country, where they're mostly doing it to each other. But that isn't outside the realm of possibility.
Well, that one of my questions were, because I've seen the work that you do, and I can see that you're a visionary, and you look at the stats and the history and you piece it all together.
Yeah.
You know, you're a smart guy. So the question was, do you think we're heading for a civil war, and in what time frame?
If some atrocity happens tomorrow, it could kick off tomorrow, Liam. We've got the extreme hot weather, you know. That is a conditions for a civil war, the hot weather. But if some atrocity happens, like, for example, if some Islamists do another car ramming against another young British Army guy, a Lee Rigby, and they chop his head off, and then they're like, with the red hands, look at that, hey, it will start tomorrow. But I'll tell you, my darkest worry, like, I have friends near Blackburn, and there's like a weird thing in Lancashire. There's a Bolton, Burnley, Blackburn, and Bradford. All the Bs, the kind of 4 Bs of the apocalypse. Burnley, Bolton, Blackburn, and Bradford. They're so dominated by Islamists, unfortunately. And we saw in Blackburn, they voted in an independent Muslim MP called Adnan Hussein, who, again, and nobody knew anything about him, but they voted for him because he is Muslim. And this sectarian stuff happened. So the reason I'm bringing up Blackburn is I did a video saying this is how the civil war may start. And you know how every single day there's between, say, 200 and 800 migrants arriving on the boat. 99% of them are Muslims. What if, like, say, the British Muslim Foundation organizes a big celebration of Islam in Blackburn, and they organize buses to bring in 100,000 men. And they come into Blackburn for a big rally in the park, like a giant Glastonbury, but for Islam. If that 100,000 men in Blackburn, young military-aged men, you can't police that. Not even the army could police that. If they just decided to spread out in the city, just occupy police stations, government buildings, they'll take hostages as well. They'll take local councillors hostage. They'll take doctors hostage, little girls, little boys hostage in school. And then the Muslim MPs would say, oh no, they're being forced to do this by the right-wing fascists. There's all the right-wing bigotry. They don't feel welcome enough. So instead of sending in the SAS to rescue those hostages, let's have dialogue. Let's maybe give them, like, devolve some power to the Muslims in Blackburn. Okay, they've got the MPs, but let's maybe make it a caliphate just to get the hostages out. And that's how it's going to work. They don't have the ability to defeat us militarily or through power, but through subterfuge and manipulation and hostage taking. You see the trouble Israel's had with the 251 hostages that Hamas took. And unfortunately, because so many people in the West have asked for dialogue instead of, in my opinion, after October 7th, every Western nation on earth should have just sent in their special forces into Gaza. Yes, it would take big casualties, but we can't, the Delta Force, the SBS, the SAS, the French guys, everyone, they could have got most of those hostages out if we sent them in the first week or so. But because everyone then goes, no, peace, don't fight back. And that's how I think it's going to happen in Britain, is the migrants will, under a ploy of a festival, get bussed into a Muslim majority city centre. They'll just take over it. Roadblocks, burning tires, balaclavas, clubs, machetes. And you can't police 100,000 angry young men who are committed to Islam, who are saying, like, we are in a Dar al-Harb. In Islam, and it's not even a conspiracy theory, in Islam there's two states. There's Dar al-Islam, which is the house of Islam, which is the house of peace. And anything that isn't the house of peace is the Dar al-Harb, the house of war, the house that is yet to be pacified and conquered, which is why the whole thing about everyone's naturally a Muslim and you revert back to Islam. Now, I don't want to come across as Mr. Randy Pan, the anti-Muslim hating man here. Many of my viewers are Muslims. Many of the people I meet that thank me for my work are also Muslims, but they would come in the camp of, like, go to mosque once a year. Muslims, they just want to work and educate their kids, and they kind of pay lip service to Islam. But the ones I'm worried about are the second and third generation young British, Pakistani, or Bangladeshi, or Muslim, or whichever, Nigerian has a big Islamic problem at the moment. And it's the ones who, and here's how it's been, Liam. The last 25 years, this country has gone woke, telling white people that they're shit, that they're bad, that they're evil, that they have original sin. It's like we're like white people are Adam in the Bible. Your original sin, you dirty bastard white person. And no wonder Muslims, when they're born, say, even the same time of us, 1980s, 1990s, if you're a young Muslim and you've got this kind of like super masculine religion, Islam, big beards, conquering the world, hey, the Muslims did really well in the past. They had a big empire. But then you're like, oh, am I a Muslim? I was born in Rochdale. And then you're like, my teacher's a chubby they, them. She's telling me that white people are bad, that children should have their cocks and balls chopped off and become women. And like gay marriage. I've got nothing against the gays, and I love my gays. I stand behind my gays, not too closely because they don't want my balls to touch their bum. But there's effeminate, gay, Annie West society, and then there's glorious, big beard, dominating, masculine. Kids would never get annied. So you're young Abdul in Rochdale, and you're like, yeah, you'd go towards the warrior culture. There's my identity. I'm a Muslim. And that's fair enough. I don't blame them. But when you asked me, do I think we're going to civil war in this country? I said 100%. The only way we will prevent civil war is if Great Britain becomes a hyper-proud of the British Empire, militaristic. We've already doubled our GDP. The only good thing Keir Starmer's done is doubled the spending to NATO from 2.5% to 5% GDP. And so we're growing our balls back slightly, but we need to teach children, including young British Muslim kids, that the British Empire was the fucking Spartans of the world. Like, we conquered the whole planet. Sun never sets on the British Empire because from Canada all the way to New Zealand, we fucking conquered all of it. Like, when you look at the map of places that Britain has conquered, there's Union Jacks everywhere, Union flags all over the planet. And to a young man looking for an identity, he can then go, oh, you know what? Yeah, I've got my Muslim heritage, but I'm born in Britain. They accept me. I can fight for Britain. I can fight for these values, and we can go and conquer the world. And one of the things I'd like Britain to do, and this is very controversial, I'll take a sip first because what I'm about to say is quite
Parching.
quite heavy, quite parching. Yeah, very parched. The end of the 20th century, let's be honest, the main reason many African and Arab countries pushed for independence, it wasn't that the British were treating them badly. They all had jobs, they were getting education, sanitary systems, schools, hospitals that the British put everywhere. Let's be honest, in the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s, the Soviet Union was filling all the locals' minds that were under, say, British colonialism. Oh, the white man's evil, capitalism's evil. You can be free, you can run the factories, you can own the means of production. So I've got a revelation to tell you all here as well. My father passed away 6 months ago. God bless him. And he was thank you, Liam. My father, he's Scottish, so I'm British since birth. Had a British passport because my dad's British. He would tell me and my brother stories of his adventures in colonial East Africa, traveling the world, going to Naval College in Portsmouth or Plymouth, I can't remember, probably Plymouth. One of the P-muths. And my dad was probably one of the proudest British men I've ever seen. He was Scottish, but his identity was Britain, Union flag, God save the Queen, the British are the best on earth. And when he was working in Tanzania in East Africa in the 60s, he saw the big shipments from the Soviet Union of AK-47s, grenade launchers, everything. And he was like, oh man, this is going to be used to kill people like me. This is going to be used to kill Europeans. And when he was working, and this is an absolute exclusive, no one on the planet knows this. When my father was working for the British companies in Tanzania, he was approached by agents of the South African government from their spy service, who were obviously capitalist, Western world, normal, well, capitalists. They weren't communists. That's the main thing we need to know. So my father, whilst working as a harbor pilot in the ports in Tanzania, can't remember the name of the city, he, for many years, was a spy for the South Africa. He was a South African spy for many years, giving them details of all the shipments, where they're coming from, what the cargo is, who the captains are, where the ships are going through after that. And he said he had a silver type pen that he would write things down, but then have to run it over the kettle to get rid of the imprints of the pen. And then the South Africans would decode it with some chemicals down their end. But this is in the era before encrypted emails or mobile phones. And I always asked my dad over the last 10 years, can I please talk about this on my YouTube channel? And he's like, no, someone's going to come for me. Someone's going to fucking get revenge on me. And I was like, Dad, you're 79 years old. You're living in Western France. No one's going to come for you. And he's like, no, they will. And I was like, okay, out of respect. But they can't come for my dad now. My dad's passed away. So I was proud of him for that. And like, you know, whatever you think about the South African government, apartheid, whatever they were doing, my dad was a Vietch who was fighting communists, putting his life at risk in Africa. Had the commies in Tanzania caught him doing that, who knows what they would have done to my dad. He'd probably have an arsehole like a bullet wound and then get executed a few weeks later, you know. But proud of him, proud of what he did. And as I was driving here today, I was saying, I'm going to tell Liam, my dad, about his spy past, because it's important for people to know. Yeah.
It's also, it's an incredible story,
Yeah.
and it's fascinating. I kind of feel blown away that you shared that with me on here before you did.
No, of course, yeah.
On your own channel. So, yeah, I appreciate it. You trust me enough with that story, and you're comfy enough. So, do you think that you could be a possible target for the government? Do you fear it?
Yeah, I do worry a little bit, but not as much as, say, maybe our mutual friend Tommy would or someone like that. He's been sticking, like, he's either been right for 20 years or he's very stubborn. When I first heard of Tommy, I was, unfortunately, I was never a lefty, never liked government, but I was an anarchist.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah, go on.
But that is exactly that. I wanted to ask if there was one, if there was ever a time in your life where you was on the left, or was you woke, And I wanted to know, you know,
Yeah.
are you an antagonist?
Yeah, I was an anarchist, as in, because of my philosophy background, hated any form of government.
An authority.
An authority, because I saw it as mind control, it's all bullshit. But because of my dad's history fighting communism for the South Africans against those bastards, Soviet bastards, those Eurasian bloody scumbags, I had a kind of inoculation, a kind of vaccine against communism. So I was never a lefty, but because I didn't have any status or money or my own business or, you know, any opportunities with, you know, to start a family, because, you know, you're just super young.
What did you have, that intrinsic resentment?
Of course, I think all male mammals have that. When you're a young guy, you're like, you know, you see the big gorillas with all the females and all the bananas. You're like, let's get some other men together. We'll go fucking depose him. And I think that's, you know, teenage rebellion. I think a lot of that is, from an evolutionary point, to stop things getting stale and shitty. There's always the threat that the younger men, like you're the kind of big white beard, you're the boss, you've got all the women and the resources, but those men in their late 20s, they're starting to gang together. They're going to come for you. So I always had that intrinsic, built-in resentment. But then as I got older, got more status, had my first few children, fell in love properly, then you start to go, oh, hold on a second. I have a lot of things in my life that I want to conserve. I'm a conservative. I want to conserve things. I'm a conservative. So then I think if you're not a bit, you know, anarchist in your youth, then you might be brainwashed. I don't know, like, were you a bit bolshy in your youth?
I'm still bolshy now, but
Yeah.
I've always had, I don't know, I've always admired success.
Yeah.
Never resented it, always aspired to it,
Yeah.
always sort of looked up to people, always sought advice from people that were in a place I wanted to be.
Yeah.
So I've always had quite a good attitude, I suppose. I suppose I've always been, without realising it,
Yeah.
on the right. I want to protect what I've got, and I want
Yeah.
to protect what people I love have got. But I was rebellious against law enforcement, for
Yeah,
example. I never liked being told what to do. I've got no problem, and I never had a problem being asked, you know, let's do this together. But I've never enjoyed being told what to do. So I would have made a great soldier, but I would have made a terrible soldier.
Yeah, got you.
So
Got
I
you.
was, a bit of a dichotomy.
Well, yeah, that's it. That's the state of man. Walking contradictions.
Mm.
But yeah, so coming back to around 2008, first heard of Tommy Robinson. And I was living in Cambridge at the time. And then the EDL, the English Defence League, came to Cambridge to do a parade. And I was just starting my early YouTube in my late 20s. So I had my camcorder. And I was unfortunately against Tommy Robinson. I was like, anarchist, these are fucking right-wing football hooligan scumbags, you know, and I drank the Kool-Aid and, you know, these are bad people. Yeah. So I was with all my hippie friends and all the anarchists, lefties, commies were like, oh yeah, look at these scumbags, look at these fucking English working class idiots. And unfortunately it was that. But now, as I got older, more conservative, less twatty, less kind of like philosophy university. I now think that Tommy Robinson is the litmus test. So any politician now who isn't neutral or positive towards Tommy Robinson, I don't think has this country's best interests at heart. Tommy, as I say, he's either very stubborn or he's been right from the start. Probably a bit of both. And so he's known, because I think you probably know better than I do, he saw Muslims in Luton befriend very young girls outside corner shops and take them into cars and give them gifts and fuck them. Fuck them, let's be honest. And that was very bad. And he was called racist for decades.
His young cousin was one of those young
Really?
girls also. So he's experienced it firsthand.
So it hits family. Yeah, so that's too much. Now, so for me, a politician who can't at least be neutral, like if a politician came out and he's like, oh, I'm running for Reform MP, what do you think of Tommy Robinson? And he's like, well, there's a place for Tommy. I don't agree with everything he says, but he's an Englishman and there's a place for Tommy Robinson in the political discourse. I'll accept that. I can maybe trust that politician. But the way Nigel Farage and, you know, the mainstream won't even talk about Tommy except to call him a racist hooligan and blah, blah, blah. Not so much these days, but the Daily Telegraph, I've noticed, is neutral towards Tommy. I think his interviews with Jordan Peterson and Tammy Peterson has kind of swayed the Daily Telegraph almost. And I've not seen anything negative against Tommy Robinson in the Daily Telegraph. But the Daily Mail, they're all scum. They hate him, you know. And I am jealous sometimes of people, because I'm half Brazilian, half Scottish, lived all over the world. Just when you're starting to get your roots into a place, the parents are, oh, we're moving to Africa. You're like, oh, so just as I'm getting my roots into, oh, we're moving to Saudi Arabia. So for me, identity wasn't hard. My dad was very much, he was like the most British of British men. So British, obviously. But in terms of my politics, it was hard because I never had a community, never had the same friends. It was all, you know, like, I was like international Charlie. Like, so it was like, what's my politics? So it's only really, I've been settled in the UK now since 1993, 32 years. Yeah, I've been here long enough now that I've got roots. So I've got 4 kids. They're all very British, obviously. But in terms of my identity, I don't regret any of the kind of like wrong turns I took, because they've all led me to where I am now, sat in front of you, based Liam, talking about the right things. But a lot of people, like, because I used to wear a Hamas keffiyeh, you know, the kind of Palestine scarf.
I saw a video of you on a bus. A woman was giving you grief, and you was wearing this scarf. Yeah, what was all that in aid of? Yeah,
so in my late 20s, still an anarchist, I believed that the Palestine resistance were brave warriors against the machine. They were the rebel alliance against Darth Vader and all that stuff. And I wanted to pay lip service and an homage to the brave warriors of the Palestinian. But this is the worst thing they did back then, was blow up buses, and that was. But there was no October 7th. There was none of that bullshit. And so I regret it now. I regret wearing the Palestinian scarf.
So you was full-blown pro-Palestine. So all those years ago, if you was at Glastonbury and you heard Bob Dylan shouting out,
death to the IDF,
you would have cheered it back?
I would have cheered it back. Well, maybe not, because I would have been, oh, I don't like the death aspect. I'm too much of a posh boy to to chant death.
So you really have shifted your entire mindset.
Let me be careful before I admit to shifting my entire mindset on such a public, popular podcast. Let me just take a sip.
Parched again, sir? Very
parched. You know, ranting against Islamists and scumbags is very thirsty work. You know? It really is. Really, I got a dry throat.
Thirsty work.
But I think the core me, my energy, has always been the same. But I've just maybe put the attention towards like false starts. You know, like gone down the wrong garden path a few times. But the core me, but the good news is I always like pull myself back quickly and go, wait a minute, that was wrong. And then don't be an asshole. Admit you were wrong and move on. A lot of people can't admit they were wrong. Whereas for me, I've been wrong so many times. Got no problem with
same, because you can't get it right all the time. It's amazing to think that we live in a time, in an era, where you denounce Islamists, not your average day, not your every average day Muslim.
Not your friendly daily muzzy.
That chooses that picks the pieces out the Quran like a buffet.
Yeah.
We're not talking about them. You've categorically stated it's the Islamists, it's the radical leg of Islam that you denounce and you won't tolerate. It's incredible to think that in this day and age, there'll be someone out there that will take that as either racist, Islamophobic, bigoted, all that nonsense, and then they formulate an argument against that and try and box you in and tarnish you and rebrand you completely and tell the world how you actually think about something. It's like, no, if you listen to the words I said, I explained my bones of contention. What's there not to understand? I don't like terrorists. Do you?
Exactly. There's many things about the creeping Islamism that I can never, ever, I'll never get used to women dressing in medieval executioner outfits, you know, like they're about to behead Bonnie Prince Charlie, Charles I. I just can't get over that look. And like I've lived in Saudi Arabia where all the women have that look. They look like something out of Star Wars, like, and it's not normal. Like, and I said this in my videos many times. People in the West that dress like that are either balaclava boys about to machete you, they're a bank robber, they're going to rob the bank, they're hiding their identity to commit a or to like not be seen on CCTV for some reason. So there's not a single good association with Western Christians with dressing like a medieval executioner. There's not a single association. And that I disagree with. And you get girls now in Blackburn, Bolton, Burnley, Bradford, second, third, fourth generation who are like, their granny was born here, but because they've got Pakistani heritage, they put they call it the niqab. I just call it the burqa. I'm not going to use their terminology. I'm sorry. Niqab, not an English word. We call it the burqa. And they're like, oh no, but the burqa's in Afghanistan with the grill over the face, and it's not. No, it's a burqa. Burqa, bin bag, ninja outfit. Don't like it. I don't need to explain to people why I don't like it. And here's another thing as well that we touched upon. Carl Benjamin from the Lotus Eaters podcast, he had a good revelatory tweet. Sorry, X post the other day. Sorry, Elon, forgive me. So the posh Tommy Robinson, the posh 60-year-old Tommy Robinson, Rupert Lowe, they're very similar in what they say. It's excellent. He did a thing saying ban the burqa, but with a few more words. So then Adnan Hussein, the Muslim, and I'll call him Islamist because he won on a ticket of Islamism. Well, Gaza, you know, fuck the death to the IDF. I was going to say fuck the Jews, but I don't think he went that far. He said, "Oh, Rupert, so you're against the burqa, yeah, in it? How come all your nuns in it wear a black outfit? Like, are you against nuns as well?" And then Carl Benjamin just responded like, "Well, fuck you. Nuns are European and Christian, so I don't have to explain to you why I prefer nuns. It's not your business. You're in my country. Nuns are my people. If you don't like it, fuck you." And I was like, wow, that's it. They've been forcing us to defend and explain. I need to explain why I don't want my kids' balls chopped off. I need to explain why I don't want people dressing like ninjas in the street. I need to explain why it's not right having a cult, a kind of mammalian breeding cult that will kill you if you try and leave. And, oh, man, like, I get sent death threats primarily by Muslims every day. It's got to the point I don't even tell the police about it anymore. I just block them. And they send things like a Photoshop of someone getting a guillotine and they Photoshop my face on it. I had one the other day from some guy called Abdul something, like, "Oh, I'm going to find your address. I'm going to come and stomp on your baby's head." Like, not normal things to write to people. And I post a lot of them on my X account, Twitter, sorry, on my thing and stuff. But it's not normal energy. And the fundamentals of Islamism or Islam are unfortunately nowhere near as sophisticated as, say, Christianity or Buddhism, and I shall explain why. We touched upon it a bit earlier in this podcast. But if your main guy, when he gets angry, he goes to a village and massacres everyone, what's that got to do with God? Whereas our main guy, Jesus, he not only did he not blame a single person next to him for all the terrible things they did to him, he took it like a man. He said, "Love your enemies." Now, that is so radical and revolutionary that it must come from some higher place. Like, love your enemies. That's insane. That's insane. It's so almost hard to understand. But then when you stop and think about it, it's that he's coming, Jesus, from a place that's outside of the 3D ape rage world. We're all fucking going to fight and kill each other. He comes from God. And so when Christians understand that, you're like, oh my God, I can't fight. I can't kill people. I can't hurt people. Like, what the fuck? But Islam lacks that final spiritual esoteric thing because their main guy was a war general, killed lots of people and said it was a great idea. And not only did he do that, he then fucked the kid. Let's be honest. Let's just say it how it is. He fucked the kid. Now, that's a big problem. And we need to just really stress this point and really push this point home. The fundamentals of Islam are poisoned, unfortunately. If the Home Office wants to arrest me for a hate crime, great. We need to be able to talk about this, or we're going to lose Great Britain. We're going to lose England. We're going to lose Scotland. We're going to lose Northern Ireland. We're going to lose Wales. It's a domination cult, and it's very similar. I see a lot of similarities between Islamism and Third Reich Nazi ideology. They're both about we are the supreme. We are, the Nazis had it with race. Aryans are the ultimate. Muslims have it with kind of temporal revelation. We are the final revelation. We are final. We are perfect. And also, why would you leave Islam? We'll kill you. It's perfect. It's the final revelation. Just like the Aryans were the final perfection of blonde, blue-eyed, perfect men and women. But so many parallels between the way Islam tries to spread and the way the Nazis spread. The Blitzkrieg, the Muslim conquest, the Ottoman conquest. Incredible. I think only the British or the Mongolians managed to spread the empire as fast as the Muslims. And so when things are going well for you, a fascist totalitarian final revelation goes very well for you. But then, just like the Nazis getting caught in the fucking winter and the Soviets and fucking... When things start to go wrong, they go mad. I think the Holocaust only started... They were killing Jews from the start, but they only started the mass murder in like industrial quantities of Jewish people in the death camps when they started losing, when they were like... Because the Nazis invaded all of France, Belgium, Holland, the Channel Islands. They took this... Was it? Yeah, Jersey, Guernsey. They had those. They fucking swept through the same way the Muslims swept throughout the North African and the Eurasian world. But when things started to go wrong, like I think for Muslims, the golden age of Islam ended in something like, I can't remember the date, but the sacking of Baghdad. The big worldwide Ummah was based in Baghdad. That was like their jewel. But I think one of Genghis Khan's grandkids from the steppes of Mongolia, he goes, oh, I heard the Muslims got a lot of gold. They're rich. They've got libraries, women, gold. And so Genghis Khan's grandkids were like, oh, if granddad could like take it. So the Mongols came, they rode across Asia to Iraq. They sieged Baghdad and there was some issue. And the Mongols ended up killing every last man, woman, and child in Baghdad, which is bad of them, but again, it's empire versus empire. And I don't think Islam's ever recovered since that final humiliation because, like Nazism, it's a dominating ideology for winners. But what if you're not a winner? How do you reconcile the fact that you're not winning with your book that tells you you're a winner? Then they go mad. And I think what we've seen for the last few hundred years of Islam, like, you know, Winston Churchill, and I quote, Islam to a man is like rabies to a dog. And like, this is like in the 1920s, like Churchill was writing this. So it's been a long-term problem that people of a Western Christian disposition are looking at, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? And so fast forward to now, and then for me, the kind of, it's almost like an own goal. Then the Islamists, one of the most dangerous Islamists was Hamas. They did October the 7th, 2023, where just to give you the statistics, 1,400 men, women, and children, Jews, killed in a couple of days, 251 men, women, and children, including the elderly, including two little ginger babies called 𝐟𝐸𝐿 and 𝐿MT&x were taken. And because Islamism is so Nazi in its belief that it's perfect, it hasn't bothered to be keeping up in academia, science, literature, trade. Like there's Robert Spencer. He's a specialist in Islam, American doctor, professor. And you know, around the world, like I'm half Brazilian, but the Portuguese will translate thousands of American books, British books, French books into Portuguese because they're interested. The Chinese will translate millions of books from the West into Chinese because they're interested. Oh, we'll learn something. He found the stats. The world of Arabic speakers, I think, translates less than 40 books a year from the West because they're just not interested. They just don't give a fuck what non-Muslims have to say because they've got the final revelation. They've got the truth. They've got perfection of God. And so with that kind of misguided arrogance, they then, because they haven't kept up, they're like, oh, how can we stay relevant? And unfortunately, it's through mass-scale terror attacks, 9/11, October the 7th, the London tube bombings. And let's not forget, the London tube bombings, which was July the 7th, 2005, was 4 born in Britain British Muslims from Luton who, on some abstract view on the news of America and Britain defeating Saddam, and that's all it was. And Saddam was a secular, he was Muslim, but he was a secular president. Tariq Aziz, the deputy leader in Iraq, was a Christian. The Ba'ath Party in Iraq was secular, as in not religious. So the British almost in a way helped Islam by getting rid of this ruthless dictator. And how did the British Muslims from Luton thank the British? They watched the news, and just because Saddam in Iraq was a Muslim country, that was enough for them. Even though they were born and bred in Britain, grew up, the GCSEs, A-levels. They grew up watching CBeebies, Teletubbies. So they're British. And they still strapped giant backpack bombs to themselves and blew up. And I was on a train. I was in Golders Green coming down. Had to get off at just at Camden, just before Camden. I forget the name. And ambulances, helicopters. And I was like, what the fuck's going on? Phone, it was a T9, T9 text message. What's going on? Oh, Charlie, go home. There's no work today. I was working for Reed Recruitment. I was doing financial advisor recruitment at the 𝐟𝐵𝐿, 30 St. Mary's Axe in London. And that was it. 4 British Muslims decided that all their identity, being British, going to a local comprehensive, primary school, watching Teletubbies, all of that was out of the window because Islam is the final revelation.
Yeah, that's insane to think you can spend your whole life in Britain and still not become westernized after all that time and information and surrounding culture. So you've obviously done extensive research and you've thought long and hard about Islamism and the dangers that come with it and the threat that the UK is without a doubt under. Yeah. You've got to be living under a rock not to see that now. So when you go to these pro-Palestine marches, because you've documented these events
almost on an almost weekly basis.
Okay, so you've really took a deep dive into the pro-Pali marches. So did you ever have any of these conversations? Did you ever ask the question, what are you protesting for, against? Do you know why you're here? Are you following the crowd? Like, what's your actual take on it? And what did you find? Because I'm sure you did engage in conversation.
Yeah, actually, I'd engage in a lot less conversation than you'd think because I despise these people so much. It's hard for me to ask them. But on the few times I have, or I've seen other people ask, here's the answers they give. They say that Israelis are white colonialists from Europe. And again, it's instantly the racial element, the ethnic element. They see Jews, that they don't belong, even though it's been called Judea for over 4,000 years. Judea. Judea. Yeah. Anyway, so they don't get that. They also downplay October 7th, like that shitty scumbag actress Dawn French. She had to apologize for it.
That was outrageous.
Yeah, she said, they did a bad thing on October, just a little bad thing on October 7th. I watched a Hamas member after shooting a teenage girl, Jewish, in her home in the gut. He shot her in the gut, and she's writhing on the floor, bleeding out. And then the parents, and he's like, no. He made the son, the mum, and the dad sit next to it. He started on their Facebook Live, started filming the girl as she's bleeding from her gut. He shot her in the gut with an AK-47. And then the son is screaming to his parents, and the dad, and the mum's destroyed, but the dad's trying to stay strong for his son, like, son, we're going to get through this. And he's watching his daughter bleed out by Hamas. And they then all got killed on Facebook Live. They just got shot in the face. Another one I saw was Hamas filming on their GoPros. They got into another house in the kibbutz, and there was one of the boys was like 8, his brother was like 10. One of them was missing an arm from getting blown off by a grenade from Hamas, and he was there, the 10-year-old boy, holding his brother's arm. And the little boy, he was trying to tell his brother that it wasn't real. Like, don't worry, this is a dream, it's not real. And there's a fucking Hamas guy filming those little kids. And then these people, these fucking people, they try and downplay that like it's a small thing. I watched with my own eyes that mother, Shiri Bibas. She knew what was going to happen to her little. One of them was 18 months old. The other one was 3 years old. Little ginger kids. And the 2 Hamas guys, balaclavas, guns, they're like parading the babies, and the mother's watching, and she knows what's going to happen to them. And like, this isn't shit from like the medieval period. This is people doing it on Facebook Live, like real. And then for people to have the audacity to go out supporting that every week on British streets, for the government to tolerate it, for the police to facilitate their protest, for my Jewish friends to not even feel safe to go to any UK city because you've got a lot of them, we don't know, are they terrorists or not? Migrants off the boat, young Arabs, Tunisians, Algerians, Syrians, people that come from war-torn regions. They're there wearing the balaclava. There's one little he comes out every week, and he's an Arab guy, dresses like Hamas. He wears a mock suicide vest. A fucking mock suicide vest, straps, wires coming out. I told the police this, and this is just, they don't care. This is how much we've been Islamized in this country.
That's outrageous.
It's outrageous. I told the police, I said, he's wearing a suicide vest. Like, go speak to him. The police went to speak to him. What are you wearing, son? Oh, it's for me to carry my mobile phone. Look, that's flap. And so oh, that's fair enough then, mate. Carry on. Mm. And this is only because we've had the non-stop anti-Jew propaganda from lefties, commies, Islamists. They just hate the Jews. It's in the Quran. Fuck the Jews. They hate the Jews. They've got an issue with the Jews. A lot of it is jealousy as well, because the Jews are such a small people and they've got so much advancement in agriculture, science, military, like civilization building. A lot of the anti-Jew stuff is jealousy because the Jews are very good at what they do. You know, I wish they wouldn't snip the little boys' foreskins, but that's for a different conversation. I disagree with them on that, but it doesn't seem to hold them back. My old Jewish boss had 10 kids, so even without his foreskin, he was very, very into it.
Going for gold.
Yeah, going for gold. But sorry, where was I again?
Well, I'll cut in there because you've covered a hell of a lot there,
yeah.
And there's a profound moment there where maybe people that are watching this will think, you know, stuff's coming from a place of hate. It will be the opposition that will accuse you of that. It's not true. But if they stick around to watch, listen, and learn, your frustration is coming from a place of hurt.
Yeah, man.
And I had a guest called 𝐃𝐨𝐽 on. She's an Israeli, and she was tortured by two members of Hamas that jumped out of the bushes. She was doing a tour guide. She watched her friend get murdered in front of her, executed beside her. She had to pretend to be dead to survive. And as she's telling me, as close as we are now, and I'm thinking, shit, I have to be strong for 𝐶. I'm hosting her. Yeah. I've got to be brave. Crying.
Yeah.
And
because you're a human being.
And do you know what she's done to me? She's the victim. She had to pretend to be dead after they plunged the knife in her chest.
Fuck me, man.
She should be dead.
Was that the Nova Festival, like the music festival in Gaza?
No, this was just a random day out. She was doing a tour guide job that she done. And I'm upset her telling me her story. She's held my hand and said, it's okay, Liam.
Wow.
Like, the bravery of that. So I totally get it comes from a place of hurt.
Yeah.
So you've been documenting the streets for a long, long time.
Yeah.
So there's not many better people to ask about the cultural shift since mass migration has just become completely unmanageable.
Yeah.
From a spectator that's watched it grow and evolve and kind of take over, like the shift, the change, what have you witnessed firsthand?
Like the migrants, because of 25 years of anti-white rhetoric and like, you know, white people should feel bad for themselves, we're dirty colonizers, we're evil from birth, you know, original sin. Because people arriving from poorer parts of the world, they understand things very simply. They see momentum. Like if I'm looking at two shares, and it's called this one Straight White Men PLC, and this one is a Young Military-Aged Muslim PLC. And then this one is like not growing very much, but this one's going through the roof, like, you know, 1,000 new men a day. Like I would invest in these shares. Like, wow, they're going to be the winners. And unfortunately, because no one is, well, we are, Tommy is, a lot of people are, but the mainstream isn't challenging them and saying, no, behave. This is Great Britain. They're being encouraged, and Keir Starmer and all the lefties, the Diane Abbotts, all the Muslim MPs, like, fucking hell, there's that, what's her name? Zara Sultana. When they banned Palestine Action, she's like, even though she's a British MP, swore allegiance to the king, she wrote a tweet saying, we are all Palestine Action. That's a British sitting MP saying that we are all a prescribed terrorist organization. And they are. They've just been prescribed as a terrorist organization. Or they are this week going to be. But I see that you're asking me, what do I see out in the streets? I see a lot of like people almost, it's almost like a kind of a religious ecstasy of finally putting the dirty straight white men in their place, putting those fucking English colonizers, those Western colonizers. And it's not like Nelson Mandela after the ANC took over from the whites. And this is Nelson Mandela said, look, no fucking fighting, no retribution. All I see, Liam, on the streets of Manchester or Leeds or London where I see these ghouls is a desire for revenge, retribution, to terrify, to scare. It's why they come out dressing like suicide bombers. It's why they dress like Hamas, the very fuckers who took those babies and tortured them. And sorry to finish that story with the 2 ginger children. Hamas gave them back to Israel. And they said, oh, they died in an Israeli airstrike. The forensic scientists in Israel, which are probably some of the best on the planet, discovered that the 2 little babies were strangled to death, and then their bodies were smashed up with a sledgehammer to make it look like an airstrike. But they could tell the constriction of the neck on the little babies that Hamas had done that. Now, the West, Christianity will fly you to the moon. To the moon. We're going to explore Mars. Islam will fly you into buildings. And that's the difference. Yeah. And that's the problem. Like, and the Nazis, and this is what I see Islamism as the new Nazis. They're the new totalitarian fascists. Our way or the highway. We are the final things. As the Nazis started losing to the Soviets, they started ramping up the mass murder of Jewish people because they needed a scapegoat. Why are we not perfect? Oh, there's too many Jews in Germany still. That's why we're not winning against the Soviets. And the Muslims, again, they'll always blame the Jews. And now white people in the West are the new Jews. Like, they want, you know, a few years ago during COVID, they almost managed to bring like concentration camps for white people to get us all into the COVID camps. But I honestly think, like, if it's not a little child getting beheaded on Facebook Live by Islamists with an ISIS banner, it will be a mass city takeover like Blackburn or Bradford. And because we've had, as I say, so many years of hating ourselves, so many of our politicians, instead of saying, send in the SAS, oh no, send in the negotiation team, we'll see what they want. You know, the West has lost its balls, but the balls are growing again very rapidly now. Like, we're in the testicular expansion phase right now.
I can see you don't care what kind of backlash you get because
I don't care.
You are free-flowing, zero fucks.
Yeah.
And you can only admire that as a man.
Yeah.
And I think because the country has lacked those testicles for so long,
Yeah.
it requires a massive set now. It's like there's been no steady pace of testicles.
No.
We now need a huge pair.
Yeah.
And hopefully people will start thinking, actually, I fancy a pair like that.
Yeah, and like we've been appeasing Islam. And yeah, and from the inspirational point of view, our podcast, what you're doing with me right now, hopefully will inspire young people to speak openly, speak freely. You don't need to self-censor. You don't need to justify to people who hate you, who want to see your children converted or murdered or trannied up. You don't need to explain to them why you want to save your own country. Fuck them. Fuck these people. Fuck what they stand for. And the only thing that makes me almost have a devilish smile is we've been so tolerant for so long. And okay, we're the bad guys. We're the bad guys. Okay, yeah, white people. Yeah, we did colonize the Middle East. Sorry. But what's that Rudyard Kipling poem when the Saxon began to hate?
You're asking the wrong man about poems.
Yeah, no worries. But it's done the rounds in the English patriot movement recently because it's basically saying about the Englishman, the Anglo-Saxon, you know, you'll tolerate, but don't fuck about because the Anglo-Saxons, like other Europeans, we've spent the last 10,000 years getting really good at killing each other. And if you try and like upset me too much, you're going to die. But he does it in a very poetic way. But the thing that gives me the devilish smile is just knowing the West when it gets its balls together. Like after 9/11, it was impressive to see Afghanistan get regime changed in 3 weeks. That was impressive. It was impressive to see a country of 30 million, Iraq, get regime changed in 6 weeks. Because when the West realizes it's in danger, it will act. And I wish the Ariana Grande concert or the Southport attack or Nice. I went to the coronation Nice where that Islamist ran over 84 people, most of them women and kids on pushing prams. 84 he killed. But none of that is awakening the European giant. And I think partly of that is the infiltration of Islamists into British politics. The mayor of London is a Muslim. I'm not saying he's an Islamist, but he grew up with that warrior code. And we have many Muslim MPs. I don't understand how we can have a Shabana Mahmood. She's the Justice Secretary. How can someone who was raised in an ideology that in my opinion, is against justice, how can she then be a justice secretary as well as a Muslim? Why hasn't she said a statement saying, I'm only Muslim by birth, not by ideology? I was raised a Muslim, but but they don't, because they feel that they've got the momentum behind them. They're on they're on, Islamist PLC. It's rising, and so they don't feel that fear.
Other than you getting death threats online
Yeah.
daily for speaking out the way you do, what other bits of backlash have you received? Who has anybody else come gunning for you other than them?
Funnily enough, no. In a way, I'm quite shocked by it. I think because I specialize in spontaneity. I do everything live. It's all off the cuff. It's all in public. Anything can happen. I get forgiven a lot. Like I'll very often say stupid shit that I then later regret, or like something that I'll not think about clearly enough and I'll say it. But people go, oh, he's doing it live, man. He's going to say shit sometimes. So I think that might protect me from a lot of Islamist anger. I think a lot of them haven't seen me yet. Unfortunately, Muslim X, they cut my clips and they put outrage things like, this man hates Muslims, look at him attacking this Muslim woman. And it's literally me from 100 meters away saying, I don't like the full burqa. But, oh, he hates Muslim women. But you touched upon the 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐿 warning at the very start of this podcast. So 4 weeks ago at 1 o'clock in the morning, Friday night, Saturday morning, I was in no position to have police in my house at 1 o'clock in the morning. But they said, can we come in? And I'm like, no. When police say, can we come in? It's never for a good reason. They're usually there to arrest you. And it's happened to me back in my, early YouTube days. The police, come and arrest you. And so I was like, no. And they're like, no, and they said, can we please come in? It's a threat to life, to you. I said, oh, that's fashion. Come on in. So they came in.
Make yourself comfy.
Yeah, make yourself comfy. And what it was is that they'd had intel that a group of males was planning to kill me on Saturday. And I was like, if this is yobbos or English people, they're not going to plan to kill me. I said, this is either Antifa, people with an ideology, the lefties, or it's Islamists. That's the playbook. Islamists, unfortunately, what was his name? Martin Davies, the MP, the Islamist. Remember that MP got stabbed to death by that Somali guy about 10 years ago? They don't care if they get caught. After they killed Lee Rigby, they just waited around. We don't care. So I thought, someone's wanted to kill me in broad daylight on Saturday. I thought that has all the hallmarks of an Islamist attack. They might say, well, and I hate the way, that bastard 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐿 on Market Street, he says on my video, in it, we love death the way you love life, and that's why we're going to win, in it, because we love death. You're scared of dying, Charlie, and we Muslims are never scared of dying, so we're going to win. And they just,
I saw that as well.
Slogans like that, yeah, pisses me off. But the 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐿 warning, I think, is either Islamists or, but it's led to great changes. My house is a CCTV fortress now. I'm not going to disclose what weaponry I have in my house. But I wouldn't want to invade my house now. I've also got plans within the house of how to barricade. I've got very heavy furniture that just to buy you 5 minutes for the police to get there, just to barricade the three of us in the bedroom with very heavy metal sheeting. I've got bars, everything. So, but the main thing I've changed, Liam, is taking 2 bodyguards out on Saturdays with me now. So they want to threaten my life or make me feel scared. No, fuck you. I'm just going to improve the team, make the team bigger. And the viewership's gone through the roof.
And Fred's become very famous.
Fred is a very famous. Alongside Occam's razor or Newton's classical laws, there's now Fred's elbow.
It'd be nice if we can get that footage to put it in somewhere just to remind people that, because it's had millions of views, there'll be so many people that have seen Fred slap, kick, and elbow.
Yeah.
And not know that it's you behind the camera.
Yeah.
That it's you that he's protecting.
Yes. I'm the client.
Yeah.
And when people... He did so well that people think that's staged just because he was so professional. Bah! He's off balance, kick, and then Fred, because he's a trained, qualified close protection officer. I love the way after he dropped that guy, he grabs me, Charlie, run, and he just took me out of there. It's we need to just escape because all his mates are going to come with knives and machetes.
But it looked like he was going to pull a knife out.
Yes, he did, and that's why Fred took him down. And people criticizing, oh, you pussies, you ran away. It's, no, Fred's doing his job, extracting the client, and I'm the client. So I felt like the US president.
You felt like the president,
I was
going to say.
like, yeah, fucking, took a bullet to the ear. And
What
so,
do the police make of all that madness? Have they got your back?
Oh, I don't know. Like, I think if they had Manchester's back, they would have permanent police around Piccadilly Gardens and in the drug dealing areas. And
that's another thing I was going to say.
Yeah.
When you're walking around Manchester and you're documenting it, and all of the different breeds of people, and there's a lot of lunacy, you also document the lack of police presence.
Yeah, and like without a top dog, all men think that they can be top dog. So without the state, the British state, having the uniformed, very visible. And they need to be big cops. Remember, like when cops had to be like tall and manly and
what is it you call the little police officers?
Policelets.
Policelets.
Yeah, piglets is what I used to call the PCSO, but it's a bit derogatory, and you know some of them are nice people. So, but to answer, that's a good question. Do the police have my back? I'm very friendly with the local police on the beat because I see them every day. It's hard to just be a twat to someone, you know, when you see them every day. I'm even friendly with like 2 or 3 of the pro-Hamas assholes just because I see them every week. Hey man, how are you? You know, and it's. I think it's something British as well. You know, like if you live in a small village, you're not going to walk to the shop without saying good morning to people who walk past you. I think it's a very British thing that when you see someone all the time, there's no point having animosity. So I'm friendly with the police. They're very friendly with me. They do, I think I do have also Charlie Veitch privilege because I do get in quite a lot of physical altercations. But because I'm known as someone that gets attacked a lot, I think other people would get handcuffed and taken away. But they're like, hold on a second. Charlie, what happened? Have you got video? Show us. So I've got a little bit of privilege. But that, I think, comes from years of showing that you're there to just collect video. I'm not there to beat people up. I'm there to collect video.
And what's your perception of the police? How do you view them?
In theory, like any civilization, you need one monopoly on force and violence. Otherwise, it's chaos. Otherwise, it's civil war. So the theory, the philosophy behind having a police force, I agree with 100%. But how it's done, I disagree with. Like, I've seen Muslim privilege at play many times with the police, mostly on the pro-Hamas marches. People call them the pro-Palestine marches. Well, let's call them for what they are. It's a pro-Hamas march. People can say sweary words, and like I've seen Muslims do death threats. I'll fucking kill you if you keep on filming me. But the police, oh, you can't say that. But if you were on video, Liam, saying you keep on filming me, I'll kill you, I bet you'd be in handcuffs because you don't have Muslim privilege. There's 2-tier policing, unfortunately. I went to Hare Hills in Leeds. Remember when all the Roma gypsies burnt down that neighborhood in Leeds?
Yes.
A year ago, I think. I went there. And there were loads of police, and they were stopping car after car because none of the Muslims had children in seatbelts. They were just rattling around, you know, like newborns rattling around in the back seat. And the police, please pull over, put your seatbelt on. And I just don't see that with native English people. You wouldn't get told, you just get a ticket, you get a fine if your kids are rattling around in your back seat. So I see 2-tier policing. Now, I'm not saying all of it is irrational. If I'm a policeman and you've got these newly arrived, like, brown people who don't understand the culture, I can see the temptation to like try and like nanny them. Look, do this, do that. Whereas I can understand the temptation with English native people who grew up here and know the culture. You should know better, mate. Fucking why your kid's not in seatbelts. I can understand that temptation, but it needs to be the same policing, doesn't it? It can't be 2-tier.
I was in Spain last year and I was in the back of a cab.
Yeah.
The police are stopping people at the roundabout. They've walked round the taxi cab. They can see I've not got my seatbelt on. The Spanish copper told me to put my seatbelt on as if he'd caught me sleeping with his wife.
Yeah, like really screaming at you.
He told me there was no uncertain terms and there was no fucking about. I put the seatbelt on immediately and I didn't take umbrage to it. I thought to myself, we need that in the UK.
Yes.
We need a direct instruction. We are the law. We don't mess around. There's reason for why we behave in this manner and why we're so rigid, because you start flaking about with seatbelts.
Yeah.
Next thing, people are carrying knives, getting away with it, and then firearms. It does escalate.
Of course it does.
Sounds far-fetched, but I mean, look where we're at now.
Yeah.
Look at the knife crime stats.
Yeah.
Look at the gun crime. Look at the industrial scale.
Yeah.
We are fucked. And it's because of that nanny state, namby-pamby, soft touch policing, recruiting 4-foot-nothings. We're an embarrassment.
we are an embarrassment. Like you touched upon it, the escalation. Rudy Giuliani, the mayor of New York during 9/11, he had what was called in New York in the 80s and 90s, as in the film Joker, was a fucking hellhole, It was all like, the subways in the 80s in America, fucking hell, riding the metro. But he had what they call the one broken window theory, that you cannot in a neighborhood tolerate broken windows on the buildings because that'll attract criminals, they'll smash more windows, and you've got crack dealers and guns and prostitutes. And so he managed to clean up New York by not even tolerating minor misdemeanors, minor crime, because they do always escalate. And here's the thing. At the moment in Britain, we are tolerating young Muslims dressing like suicide bombers that mass murdered Jews 2 years ago. That's being tolerated on the streets. It's not many then stages to kidnapping a young Jewish guy and making demands. And here's the thing, because we don't have a dominant culture saying Britain is best, English people, Scottish people, Welsh and Northern Irish are the best. Like other countries, they believe in their greatness. The Muslim world, they all believe Islam's the best. You go to Korea, they believe Korea is the best. You get even some white places have it. Like I'd say New Zealand has a kind of nice opinion of themselves. But without a culture that is dominant within itself, all the other competing cultures will try and be the next gang that will take over. And so tolerate people dressing like suicide bombers, calling for the death of Jews, then it's not many stages to kidnapping a Jew and making demands.
What's your driving force behind everything you do? Because what you actually do is you're a boots on the ground journalist with your own twist.
Yeah.
You go to volatile places, very interesting places, rough and ready places, really, that, a lot of people would be too frightened to go and put themselves in that position. Why do you do that?
If you've got an internal monologue that you're questioning yourself, it's literally just doing the right thing. It's shame is a big driver. If I saw things and didn't speak up, the shame, how could I go to bed that night? How could I have 4 children and just say, oh, I'm all right, Jack. I've got a bit of money. I live in the countryside. Fuck everyone. No, it's shameful.
Sounds like the left.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm all right, Jack.
I'm all right, Jack. I've got a bit of money. I've got a nice farm in Surrey. Fuck you all. But it's shame, I think, is the main driver. Avoiding shame as a man. We've been so emasculated and so made to feel ashamed of being strong, manly providers, strong men. It's been called toxic masculinity. Our competition has been called toxic. Whereas I learned this from the YouTuber Stefan Molyneux. He said that men are naturally meritocratic, as in we elect the best amongst us on merit. So say we're a tribe in the Amazon and we're hungry and you're a better hunter than me, but I've got the spear and we've got a whole village to feed. I'm going to be like, here, take the spear, Liam, get us meat. Otherwise, we all starve. So the best hunter gets the most meat. He should have the most women and have most genes passed on. And all the men are like, well, yeah, he's the best hunter. Give him the spear or we all starve, But for women, because the women's psyche is about making sure that the children all get the same amount of food. But the children aren't all the same age. The big kid, he wants to take all the food. The middle kid doesn't get as much. And the little kid, the little boy, unless she punishes the strong and gives the food to the weak, they're going to starve. So a woman's instinct is to redistribute wealth, communism, whereas a man's instinct is democracy and meritocracy. So we elect the best amongst us to do what is right. Now, somewhere along the line, we stopped doing that. And I think I'm just a small cog in a giant wave now, a big machine of trying to reawaken the Western man, maybe to an almost pre-Christian, ancient, spirit that, Christianity obviously came from the Middle East and it was accepted within Europe, but we've had our own gods, our own pagan gods of domination, of war, of winning. You had the Vikings, you had the Celts, and it's maybe my job is to reawaken the West, to say we're not evil colonizing scumbags who hate brown and black people. We are human beings, goddammit. We have value. We are winners. We are conquerors. And we not only did we conquer the world, we also spread democracy, sanitation, technology. And I like to remind the bastard lefties who say that black people should get reparations for slavery. It was actually the British in 1812 that banned slavery across the empire. And the Royal Navy lost, I think, 20,000 young British men enforcing that ban on slavery. So people say, oh, British people are racist, innit? It's a racist country. It's not good being black in Britain. We gave 20,000 young men's lives to enforce the banning of slavery. And because the Americans didn't agree with us, we burnt down the White House in 1812. That was revenge for 1776. So there's a lot going on. But what drives me really is the avoidance of shame and being able to look at my children in the eye when I'm an old man and say that I did something. I didn't do a lot. Didn't pick up a gun and liberate Manchester, but I did something.
And your purpose is now to contribute towards making change.
Absolutely. This country, it's, you know, Muslims love the word revert. We need to revert to rule Britannia, to the glory of Britain. And here's the thing. You asked me if civil war is inevitable. Yes. But I think one way we can avoid civil war, and we touched upon it, but we need to indoctrinate in schools. You know, the Americans, they've got the flag, they sing the national anthem. They become American. Even like, you know, I love when you see American TV, you've got African Americans speaking the perfect American accent. You've got Chinese Americans speaking the perfect American accent. If you took away the image, you couldn't tell if it was a white man, Chinese man, or a black man because they speak American. But in Britain, because mass immigration has been so heavy, like you've got such a thing as the Yorkshire Pakistani accent. You've got the urban inner city accent among young black men. And that's because we're piling so many people in at such a rate, there's no ability for them to become Englishmen. They're in these like migrant civilizations within a civilization. And that's interesting. That's very strange. Now, I hope we don't get killed for this, Liam. I hope, but, you know, in a way, if we get beheaded for this, it kind of means that we were right. You know, as they're chopping my head, I was right, you fucker. You know, I told you were a violent menace.
I'm going to say it was him.
Yeah, just it was him. Yeah.
Let me ask you a few more bits.
Go on.
I want to talk about the mainstream media.
Yep.
But I want to talk about what journalism has taught you as a journalist on the whole, outside of Islamism.
Yeah.
As an actual profession, because your work is very, very serious. I mean, you've got a massive, massive audience that you've built. So you're doing something right, and you're obviously connecting with people.
Yeah.
You're obviously touching the hearts of your audience.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in what you've learned as a whole doing that.
The biggest thing I've learned, and it's not so much journalism, but I get a lot of people ask me advice. Oh, what should I do my YouTube channel on? Or what should I film? Or what should I do? And I say very simply, do the videos that you yourself would watch. So I say to them, like, what do you like to watch? I like to watch this. I said, do that then. And like you clearly, Liam, you want to listen to people's opinions and have like great conversations and like expand your mind from hearing ideas that other people wouldn't hear, which is why you do what you do. But what I've learned about journalism is that there are no real journalists in the mainstream anymore. They're all just little suckers of Satan's cock, taking the paycheck. They work for the system. There's no one investigating, you know, why do we not have undercover Muslims in mosques all across the UK finding out what they're preaching? Because they don't care. They you know, they're a bunch of drunk Fleet Street, fucking mentally ill, angry people who hate people like you and me because we're the new guard. You know, the mainstream media is dead. It's finished. I get contacted by the Daily Mail. Fuck them. Right, spit on the ground, mentioning that newspaper.
We normally ban that word in here.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, good man. They contact me all the time wanting to do stories, but it's like, no, sorry, it's over. The one time I recently accepted a Daily Mail story, they insulted the shit out. I'm not going to mention what they wrote because fuck them, but they just made it look like I was at fault, even though I was a victim of assault, but I deserved it. So fuck them, man. They're scumbags.
Because you've been lied about as well, haven't you?
Most of the things said about me are lies, yeah.
Is there freedom of press?
I think so. If I call myself the press, maybe because YouTube is an American company, I say things on my channel that I'm like expecting a knock at the door by the Gestapo, you know, by the fucking thought police. And here's the thing, you know, Lucy Connolly, she's languishing in jail. But I reread her X post, and she said, and I quote, "Burn down the hotels for all I care." Now, for me, she is showing ambiguity. She doesn't care whether the protesters burn the hotels down or not. She's saying a statement, burn the hotels down for all I care. It's like if I was to say, you know, take a bath for all I care, Liam. I'm not telling you to have a bath. I'm saying I don't care whether you have a bath. So how did she go to jail for that? And then you've got Kneecap saying, kill your Tory MP. And then you've got Bob Villain, deaf to the... And can you not pronounce death? Deaf. Are you deaf? Deaf to the IDF. But yeah, man, journalists.
And what sort of reception do you get on the whole when you're out in public?
Yeah.
Mainly, what reception does Charlie Veitch get?
Anyone with a job, or anyone that has kids, or anyone that is able to think gives me great love and affection. And it's what a problem to have, Liam. Sometimes it's hard to film in Manchester because of the love and adoration and hugs and photographs I take with people. And I've got to the point now where so many people want to take a photograph with me, but I need to do a video. I can't afford to hire the bodyguards for more than 4 hours because they're expensive. And I'm like, guys, you have to walk with me. And then I've got people walking alongside taking photographs because I've got to keep moving. But the ones that do shout something nasty at me, something that they've read online or some lie, many people say, Charlie, don't react to it. But then I say, no, but I'm here for the shekels. I'm a content creator. Of course I'm going to challenge them. I'm going to make money on it. So I'd say for every 100 lovers, there's one hater. And I'm very nice to my viewers because, you know, they pay the bills. But for the haters, especially with the bodyguards, I can go up to them and force them to have a conversation. Because it's not normal to walk past someone that you see on TV or on YouTube and then like throw a really deep, vicious insult, the kind of stuff that's fighting talk. And I say a lot on my channel, like, I had this fat Pakistani guy who I said, are your parents cousins? He was saying horrible things, trying to get a crowd around. Luckily, I had my bodyguards. But I said to this other English guy, the guy comes in, oh, Charlie, ignore this. He's a fucking... I said, yeah, he's clearly never been punched in the face because he wouldn't be saying these things if he'd ever been punched in the face. I've been punched in the face many times, which is why I take bodyguards out now. But again, people feel that if you're well known, that most of it's respect, but for a certain demographic, they think that you're a public clown. You should have like tomatoes thrown at you. You should be put in the stocks, and like, but yeah. So and then they get very personal, you know. Like I do get triggered, and I think any man should do. Like even Pope Francis, before he passed away, there was an interview, and he goes, yeah, and this is in Rome. If someone insults your mother, punch them in the face. Even the Pope said that. And people in this country feel so empowered. And this is because we've been neutered. We've got our hands behind our back. I think if you're out in public and someone does a deep insult about your children, your wife, your mother, it should be legal to punch them in the face.
I saw the video where the guy was going down the route of insulting your mother.
Yeah.
And I always think to myself in that situation, because for me, I can tolerate, I've learned over the years, my tolerance has gone through the roof because I think it has to be, otherwise I'd be in jail.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of things, and one of them is insulting my mum.
Yeah, mate.
And it may sound petty to some people, but for me, it's a massive, massive trigger. And I think, 𝐶𝐿, you really did keep it together well. I think he was on his last legs. I think if he'd have said it one more time like you asked him to, or finished what he was going to say, I'm pretty confident you would have smashed him.
I think you're right, and I would have been arrested for it, and that's what they want. Yeah, it's really hard.
Yeah, I saw that. That's funny you brought that up, because that was... Yeah. I've watched in preparation for this, I've watched a load of your stuff, and you know what? You're not on your own. I know that. Just two more things.
Yeah.
I've said it before, your boots on the deck. You see a lot of things that other people don't see, nor will they ever see. What are most people missing? What's being hidden from the public?
Two things. The first one is the giant psychological operation to replace white people. And I genuinely mean this. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. It's coming from a million different angles, from advertising to the news to politics to even King Charles sucking the dick of Islam publicly. He's never said nice things about Christianity, but there's like 10 different clips of King Charles loving Islam. And people are like, has he converted? So the main thing, I think, is that people think, normies, normal everyday people might not know what I mean by normie. I just mean normal everyday working people. They might think that the amount of ethnic minorities on TV is to make ethnic minorities feel included, is to make them feel happy, is to make them feel part of the culture. But let's say, for example, this country is 10% black and brown, to use simple terms. There should be 10, 15% black or brown people on TV to represent the culture. But there's like 50 or 60% ethnic minorities on TV. So an alien landing in Great Britain would think that Britain was 50% black if they just watched the TV. And I've got nothing wrong with being colorblind, and anyone can have the spirit of God in them and be an amazing person. You could be green, black, blue, Eskimo, Nigerian. Even Muslims can find God and then become amazing people. Some of them are, obviously. But that's one thing. People are not aware of the replace the whitey is the big vibe. Replace the whitey. For some reason, the rest of the world is ganged up together. Because for whatever reason, whites have done exceedingly well, culturally, financially. The safest states in America, when you do the analysis, if you ask AI, what are the safest states in America? It'll say, New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine. And then you say, what states have the highest percentage of white people? It's the same states. And that used to be controversial, but now everyone can see it. So for some reason, the rest of the world is ganged up on white people because they're jealous. It's envy. The reason why within Judeo-Christianity, envy is one of the deadly sins, because it'll make you do demonic things. And those demonic things is people think it's open season on whites. Whites are the new Jews. You can't do bad things to white people because they deserve it. And that is the demon of envy coming through. So the normies don't realize that the propaganda is coming from somewhere. I haven't been able to pinpoint it. I think it might be a general hormonal thing. The whole world feels together. Like, we can finally take the crown away from the straight white guy, and we will wear the crown, and then the world will be really fair and perfect, and we're not going to ever hurt anyone. So there's that aspect of it. What most people also fail to see is how Islamists are feeling their own momentum, that they're winning. I've got, as I said earlier, a friend just outside Blackburn. You drive into Blackburn, there are mega mosques on the side of the hill. Not just one, not two. There's like 4 or 5 mega mosques, like big ones, £1 million mosques. And they don't understand that Muslims aren't just here to start a family or to like send their kids to a good school. Like, let me ask you a question, Liam. When you go to Chinatown and you're in Chinatown in London or in Manchester, and that the street signs are in Chinese, there's Chinese people all around you, do you ever worry that the Chinese are going to take over England?
No.
And why is that? Why do you not feel a danger from Chinatown or Chinese people?
That's a very good question. Never thought of that.
Yeah.
I feel like they're doing their part as guests to share their culture with us.
Yes, absolutely. And
it's a good question.
Yeah, it's a great. And then when I go to Little Italy, there's a big Italian community in Edinburgh. I never turn to my English mate. Oh, Dave. Fucking hell, man, we got to control these Italians. They're going to take over, because they don't want to. They just and they're Christian. And the Chinese, ancient religion, ancient culture. And so when we look at a Chinese family, because they come from a high IQ area, when you watch a Chinese family, you're like, yeah, they're pretty much doing, it's like me, but with Oriental looks, But when you get an ideology, a kind of death cults, mammalian breeding ideology, domination ideology, it is very worrisome. The exact same way if my neighbors were in that Heaven's Gate cult. Remember that Hale Bopp comment where those guys all wearing the black... there's cults that kill themselves, go mad. I don't want a cult next door. I don't want... I wouldn't... If I was in Germany in the 30s and I wasn't that way inclined, I wouldn't want to live next door to Nazis. I wouldn't want Nazis to start getting MPs in government. I wouldn't want Nazis to tell me that Jewish people are born with original sin, that Jews control everything. Whites are the new Jews now, but Jews used to be the Jews, obviously, and they still are. But the same way, the reason why we don't feel angry or scared with Chinese, Chinatown, or Little Italy, or even to a certain extent Indian restaurants, Hindus, is that they're not in this 1,000-year plan to dominate the planet. They just want to get on with it.
Yeah, there's not that aura of arrogance and supremacy.
Yeah.
That's because I've been given that thought since you asked me that question. I thought, yeah, what else? But yeah. What would be your final message to the masses? And also, where can people find you?
Yes.
And what can they expect to find?
Sure, I'll do that one. That one's the easier one. My name is Charlie Veitch. I'm on YouTube. If you just Google Charles Veitch or type in Charlie, I'm so big on YouTube, if you just type in Charlie into YouTube, I'm the first suggestion, Charlie Veitch. Bigger than Charlie Chaplin, bigger than Charlie Kirk. Which other famous Charles is a? Oh yeah, Charles Darwin. He's like 10th result. So I'm the biggest Charlie on YouTube. But what do I want people to take away is that life is short. You don't want to be an old man and have a history of cowardice and being a yellow-bellied failure. We're all going to die. I was going to say I intend to deserve it, but I don't want to be killed by Islamists. But we're all going to die. And for me, a coward, I'm going to quote Shakespeare now, a coward dies 1,000 deaths in his life, but the brave only taste death once. And I think that's one of the most beautiful quotes I've ever heard. Mm-hmm. The biggest death you will have is not doing what you know to be right. And when I was driving here to this lovely bit of the English countryside, I want to thank you for this amazing location. Like, this is proper England down here.
Lovely, isn't it?
It's brilliant. Like, I almost pulled on the side of the road, had a picnic, and said, "God save the king."
Then you remembered you didn't like him.
I think Prince William will be okay. But for me, to the people, remember what it is to be human. Remember the message of Jesus. Remember the sacrifice that Jesus Christ made. He didn't blame anyone. He didn't have to explain himself because he was already God. And people need to understand you don't need to justify the England that you want to live in, or the Britain, because I'm Scottish, but I live in England. I've got 4 English kids. You don't have to justify the Britain that you want because it's your country. And that's the final message.
And if you enjoyed the final message and you want to see more of Charlie's work, we're going to put his link to YouTube in the description, and we're also going to put his X account in there because I suspect that's going to grow at quite a pace as well. If you like what you saw and you heard today, you have to take the time to press subscribe and like the channel. It will take you 2 seconds. It helps me grow the channel and it helps me create a platform for guests like Charlie Veitch. The mainstream media will never ever platform someone like Charlie unless they want to attack him, and they'll never give him the free space to speak as open, as honest as that. And we're lacking honesty in the country. We're sick of being lied to. So like and subscribe to the channel. It costs you 0 and I'll keep delivering the goods. And Charlie, that was fascinating.
Thank you, Liam. Real pleasure to be on your show.
Yeah, thank you, brother.
Thank you, man.